Leader Fan Radio Network.
Frustrating.
And KFAN.com. 1 minute, 59 seconds past 3 o'clock at Central Daylight Time. Welcome back. It is a Thursday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on I like to call it the calm after the early sleet NAMI Thursday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. I think the worst is behind us. I think the weather advisory expires at 4. I know it was blizzard-like here earlier. There's like an inch or two of slush everywhere, it seems. What it's going to mean for Halloween trick-or-treaters tonight, I have absolutely no idea. Now, it sounds like you don't have to worry about precipitation tonight so much as a biting wind.
Right. And the temps are not ideal.
They're not. The wind chill is actually legitimate. I am Dan Barreiro. I am a former Inkstand Wretch newspaper of the Twin Cities. I host the program. Guardsy produces the show. And we thank you for your participation in what I'm assuming is a 3-hour tour today.
We are out at 6.
Out at 6 o'clock. We got Vikings programming to get to. Do we have the big Thursday nighter? National Football League, Texans at Jets?
The one where the Jets are favored? We absolutely do.
They're favored?
They at least one point were. I don't know if they still are.
2-6 Jets hosting the 6-2 Houston Texans. Wow. That's
puzzling.
That is interesting. That's for sure. Maybe we'll get to that with our 3:30 guest. Sean Salisbury is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. I sent out the tweet, the pregame tweet, forgetting about Bill Guerin. How could you forget about Billy Guerin? He's going to join us at 5, you tell me. And I guess we'll go inbox 4:30, or do you want inbox 5:30? What do you think's better for me?
I think 4:30 is better.
Okay.
Because being that we're out at 6, the 5 o'clock hour is going to get a little goofy with Guerin.
Let's do that. Let's make it inbox 4:30. Still time to email Guardsy, JG@KFAN.com. You know me, I'm a ball guy that goes way back. I grew up on ball. Bad ball, but it was nevertheless, it was ball at Wrigley Field. And I, for the life of me, I've seen it all. Haven't covered it all, but I've covered some pretty memorable baseball moments, certainly in this town. And I will submit to you that the fateful inning that pretty much ended, well, I guess technically it didn't because they took a lead again, but the inning that opened the door to the New York Yankees not extending the series another game on a day in which they'd built a 5-0 lead early is the most bizarre, confounding, mystifying inning of baseball that this ball guy has ever witnessed. Is that hyperbole? I don't think it is.
Not really.
Now,
when you factor all of it in.
For those who didn't pay attention to it, it was the 5th, right? So, by the way, through the first 4 innings, your guy Garrett Cole had been brilliant, right? 4 days rest, 4 hitless innings, only, I think, economical, 49 pitches through 4 innings. So he gives up a single to lead off the 5th. And then your guy, Tommy Edman, hits the most routine, soft line drive in the history of routine, soft line drives to a Judge in center field.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I think this season, Judge commits an error. He just, it's in his glove and he just drops it. Unforgivable, but still not the thing that bugged me the most about this inning. So now you got a couple men on, right? And then you have a ball hit to the shortstop who decides he fields it cleanly, but his throw to third to get the lead runner, not good. It bounces in, and the Chisholm does not really make the catch on the throw. Now the bases are loaded with nobody out, right? Still up 5-0, but bases loaded, nobody out. Then Cole does what Cole does. He strikes out the next hitter on 4 pitches. Then your guy comes up, Ohtani. It was a fight. They just stopped it. I mean, Ohtani was utterly and completely overmatched, and he swings feebly at a curveball at the bottom of the strike zone. And now, guess what? There's 2 out. You have every opportunity to get out of this thing without not just a little damage, without any damage being done. You have a chance to protect a 5-run lead and still at the end of this weird inning be up 5. And then this is the confounding play that has me talking about and referring to lazy-ass baseball players. I say that because how many times on this show do we get texts and emails from people back in the day? Oh, NBA players are just, that's lazy.
Right.
They don't play defense. They're not trying. They're not doing anything.
A lot. We still get them.
We almost get them every day. What was lazier about what took place at this point in the ballgame? Your guy, Mookie Betts, back in the news. Mookie squibs one to former Cub hero Anthony Rizzo at first, right? Now, as the story goes, Rizzo stays back on the ball in part because it's got some spin to it. It's tricky. He wants to make sure that he does the most important thing, which is field it cleanly. So he stays back on the ball. The proverbial, I stay back on the ball because I needed to in this situation. Meanwhile, the pitcher, Cole, is watching the ball squib to first, and he kind of starts a little bit off the mound down the line, but stops and points as if to say, oh, you can make this play, Rizzo. You can make this play unassisted. Inning over. However, Rizzo didn't agree. Rizzo just stood there, moved forward a couple of steps, and guess what? Betts, hustling down the line, gets to first base without a throw, and now what? Game on, correct?
It's not good baseball.
After that, so that's the first run that scores in the inning. From that point forward, there's a 2-run single to center, a game-tying 2-run double to left center, and suddenly it's 5-5. Now, again, the Yankees move back ahead. I get all of that. But I'm going to ask you, I don't think Rizzo's getting enough heat because what I saw in that, what still has my mind as a non-ball guy exploding is given this is the World Series, right? You're down, 3-1?
Yep.
With what looks to be a great opportunity to extend the series to a Game 6. You have 2 world-class players out there in Cole and Rizzo. And to me, they both act like, it's mid-June.
Right.
It's the second game of a doubleheader.
We're at Steinbrenner Field for spring training.
Yeah. My mind is blown on the laziness exhibited by these 2 players. I don't think they're getting enough heat for it. And I put absolutely almost as much of it on Rizzo as I do the other player, because I'm telling you, I'm not a great spatial relations guy, but I am fairly convinced that if Rizzo at the moment he realized pitcher ain't coming, had just taken off on a dead sprint, it would have been close. But that's what you're obligated to do, isn't it? And he just sort of sat there, well, get him next time, I guess. I don't know.
Tough one.
I thought, like the pitcher, I had to hold back on the ball because it had some. My mind is still blown about. I don't think there's been enough savagery about the laziness exhibited on that play. Now, maybe the ball guys will tell me I don't understand the game.
Right.
I understand the nuances.
Well, we
of the
know
game.
that.
Well, I guess that's true.
We understand that.
I've never, in all seriousness, has there ever been an inning quite like that in that circumstance? I think the answer is no.
No.
Think about it. In the history of baseball, and it's the New York Yankees, by the way. The Bronx Bombers.
And I jumped into it after all of that had happened. And then they did kind of a summary of it going into one of the breaks. And I said, my God, all of those things happened. They were up 5-0.
5-0.
And here's everything that had to go wrong. And the self-inflicted wounds, to use every football coach's favorite phrase right now, to let the Dodgers back into it. You had everything going for you. And it's not like the Dodgers need an invitation. They're a good enough club on their own, right? And at that point, you just say, you're almost rooting for them to lose. Just on that basis alone.
See, and people already are missing my point. They're coming in and saying, hold on, that's Cole's play. That's day one stuff in spring training. Irrelevant. At that moment, what is the only objective? It's not like, I mean, yeah, you could say, well, Rizzo can go home and put his head on his pillow at night and say, well, we know what's supposed to happen on that play. But given the circumstances and the stakes, don't you make an effort? Don't you sprint your ass over there, even if your leg gets broken because you collide with Mookie Betts as he's crossing first base? Don't you bust ass in that situation? So I'm aware that it's more on the pitcher, but I'm saying, okay, make it on Cole. How is that possible given the stakes in baseball? And again, any sort of similar play that would happen in an NBA game, the players would be getting barbecued for lack of effort. Oh, they make so much money, they don't care. And I think there should be much more savagery aimed at the two individuals on this play, because at that moment, again, it doesn't matter who's right. You got to
get the out.
The pitcher isn't coming. So I have maybe a 1 in 5 chance of getting there first. But I have a 0% chance of retiring this runner if I wait for the pitcher to get there because he's decided he's not going to get there. Awful, awful. I feel bad for thinking Ankel because I'm sure she was feeling better about her club. They were trying to make it a series. They were making it interesting. And it is ironic that the team that has more postseason success than any, right? Royal name, the New York Yankees. We think of they're always, other teams are the ones who screw this sort of thing up. You can't screw up in textbook fashion any worse than the New York Yankees did in that inning.
An exclamation point, by the way, with Aaron Judge for the World Series he had, because I don't think he had a great one.
No, he didn't.
And
by the way, in fairness to Judge, I think the previous inning he made a circus catch.
Yeah.
That robbed somebody of a hit or maybe a double, whatever. He's a good fielder, and that's his first error. But see, to me, I look at that as bad play, but that's not
effort.
That world-class pitcher and that world-class first baseman failed in effort on the play that, was going to pretty much decide any chance they had to keep this series alive.
The Fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. And the first keyword on this snowy Halloween is grand. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword grand.
Well, it's, maybe there is some karma to it, the more I think about it. Maybe this is, once again, the baseball gods justly exercising their control and making their statement in the wake of, the attempt to steal Mookie's glove down the right field line
the
other night?
Yep.
And they said to themselves, we can't really, with that sort of nonsense going on, we'll let the Yankees win one. But how about in the second one where it looks like they are going to extend it? They're in great shape. We will an implosion like never seen in the history of baseball. In fact, I think that's the first 5-run blown lead ever when the series is to be determined. I don't think that's ever happened in World Series history previously. And I doubt it's happened very much at all with a 5-run in any inning, in any postseason situation. Maybe, we said before, the sports gods seem cruel, but sometimes they are just.
They try to be.
Yeah, pretty much. You familiar with Jesse Rogers?
Yeah, ball guy,
ESPN
right?
ball guy?
Yes.
I think he's Chicago-based. I don't know if he's still there or not, but he covers a lot. He's been covering this World Series. And God bless him. He's accomplished. He's got great credibility. He's under siege right now. And I think he kind of, in a online sense, deserves it. He sent out a tweet with this photo, or with a photo. Meet Austin Capobianco, the fan that interfered with Mookie. I was talking to him at a local bar when a bunch of other fans asked him to take a pic with him and for his autograph. He was a beaut. Story up soon at ESPN.
Yeah.
I guess we have confirmed what we said yesterday. We live in a different world now. And as somebody else pointed out via Twitter, side-by-side photos of Bartman at Wrigley down the left field line.
Think about it.
And
think about that.
Capobianco down the right field line. One was vilified, the other glorified. And you know why this is, right? Because in the world in which this element of the population lives, there's a big difference. Big difference. What Bartman did hurt the home team potentially.
Right. Whose ox is being gored.
What our guy did was try to stand tall on behalf of the home team. And when you preside in that world, there is no logic that you can use to argue with idiots like that. There isn't. It's like, I want to slap him on the back. Way to go. One of the quotes from, what's the name again? Lobianco? No, Capobianco. Is basically, we're there to protect our turf. Oh, here it is. It's in our area. We're going to D up. That's what I said yesterday. He thinks he plays for the team. Oh, my God. And again, I don't want him put in prison. But the more people try to glorify him, the more I am going to mock him and mock this situation. So you put it together and you say, then maybe the Yankees themselves deserve the scorn they're getting from their own fan base today, the embarrassment that they had to deal with because of the unprofessional nature of that particular fifth inning as well. I think Rizzo hesitated because he was shocked to see the pitcher still standing on the mound as he anticipated tossing. Hold on a second. The ball to a streaking Cole covering first. I think his delayed move to the bag was due to his surprise to Cole standing in place. That's how it started. But in my opinion, he still could have at least made it a close play. And that was his obligation at a time like that. Obligation. Don't act like it's spring training. Don't act like it's not my play to make, and I'm not going to bust my hump over there. I might get hurt. I might collide. I might get hurt. No excuses. Zero excuses. And still, I don't think enough attention has been made to that part of it. It's not just a miscalculation, boys and girls. That's laziness. And it's at the worst possible time. It's remarkable. Inexcusable, probably also an element of ego, thinking that a 5-run lead, JJ writes, was safe and they could give LA a charity run. There might have been some truth to that, too. I mean, you don't think necessarily they're going to have the series of hits they did after that, right? It was one big hit after another that kept the door open. Paul in St. Louis Park, you're spot on. The pitcher isn't coming, so Rizzo, move your ass.
Bring your ass to first.
Bring your ass, move your ass, whatever the case may be. I feel the play was similar to when Cam Newton showed zero interest in that fumble in the Super Bowl. I don't remember that. Was there a fumble that Newton got ripped for not going after?
Maybe. I just remember that your favorite is the Jeff George.
Jeff George one happened here for sure.
In a playoff game, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was in St. Louis,
yes, the year after 98.
What play is worse, the play at first in the World Series, the Hail Mary pass in the Washington Bears game? It's an interesting question, and that these would come, so close to each other. Well, that's a good question. I mean, they're different, but they're similar, you could say, because in the case of what happened to the Bears, some of it was just miscommunication and bad execution, leaving the receiver by himself behind the pack, behind the scrum. But then you can't leave out the lazy ass part, which is one of the defensive backs working the crowd over his back to the field the first 7 seconds as Daniels is scrambling from one side of the field to the other. So that's very difficult, but it is interesting to see these two plays, not related, but they feel in a way related, almost historic, happening not that many days apart. I assume they're not taking it well in New York, are they? They're usually pretty rough. I mean, they don't do the old, well, we got there, we've got a lot of World Series titles, and we went a long way.
It was a good season. If you would have told me in spring training we'd end up in the World Series, I would have taken it.
I don't think that's the way the Tabs are doing it.
Probably not.
Dougie Baseball, writes Ben in Minneapolis, would have laid his life on the line and dove glove first to first base. He's right.
Well, and you know who you would have run into?
Ken Herbert.
No, he would have run into Brad Radke, Johan Santana, go down the list, Joe Nathan. Yeah. Because Gardy's guys would have it would have been like meet at the quarterback. It would be meet at the bag.
How do you think TK would take that play?
Not well.
I don't think he would.
No, not well.
Would he?
Gardy, same thing. He's TK's school.
Well, he's your play. Yeah, but you still got to try to get to first base, man. Now, again, it's easy to say it now because nobody knew. It's a 5-run lead at that point. Now it's down to a 4. In the 5th inning, you see, you would still take your chances, but that's not the way you're supposed to play in the World Series, I didn't think. I have my doubts about whether or not Cole could have got his fat ass to first before Betts.
Jeez.
But Ratso Rizzo's putrid effort doesn't even let us speculate if he would have gotten there on time. Cole's not that fat, is he?
I didn't think so.
I didn't think he was.
No, and I'm not going to throw that stone.
I don't think so. I'm not either. I mean, it's a. But it was like, and you saw him point, right? Did you see the highlight of that? It looks to me like Cole kind of points like, okay, I see the angle here, and it's like, okay, you can just sprint to first and get him out. And guess what? Guess who didn't mail it in on that play? Mookie Betts, the same guy whose glove was stolen, or there was an attempt to steal his glove. Mookie Betts says, "I'm running it hard to first." You know why? Because you never know in Major League Baseball. We might ask Sean Salisbury's opinion on this because Salisbury's got to cover everything down Houston, Texas way. Plenty on Vikings and Colts, the Colts quarterback decision. We will get Sean on that and much more when we return. There's plenty of football to get to with our next guest, Sean Salisbury, joining us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. But we do want to explore a couple of other subjects first. He reminded Guardsy before the start of this segment that he was here for the 1991 Halloween blizzard. I was living downtown at the time. I don't know where you were living, but you were here. What do you remember about that occasion?
I was living over there in the West Bloomington, where the Bloomington Ferry Bridge is over in that area in Bloomington. Mm-hmm. And my house there, I remember it vividly, and I refer to it a lot. I mean, it's 82 degrees and humid here in Houston today. So I don't know which one's complaining more, if I'd rather be there or the cold or here. Yeah. But it's November 1st tomorrow. And by the way, happy Halloween, or 82 degrees. But we got a little rain today, which made it even more humid. I remember that because we still went out and trick-or-treated. My kids were young. Yeah. And went out and trick-or-treated and walked around. And I think, Dan, if I'm not mistaken, we got 20 plus inches that day. And
yep.
It was like 2 feet of snow. Yes. Mm-hmm. And the thing, aside from the fact that, in Minnesota, it's like was business as usual. I know it was coming down, but around your neighborhood, people still were knocking on doors, trick or treating. And my youngest, they were just very young, but still we were handing out candy and all that. And I'll never forget the next morning, which is, I tell people this all the time too. It was his business as usual. The Minnesota's the greatest snow cleanup. I mean, I got my vehicle, drove to work. It was, I've seen an inch and a half of rain slow people down to where they don't want to drive anywhere, and whether it's California or Texas. In Minnesota, I tell people, I said, listen, it was 2 feet of snow. Yeah. The next morning, I was up early to go to the facility, and streets were clean to get to work. Just drive safe. And I'm like, what? That would have stopped down some cities for 2 weeks. So tribute to those responders that get out and clean the streets, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's, people in the community. But I'll never forget it. And I'll never forget that day and how long it was. And it was business as usual the next day for the most part. And it was a phenomenal snowstorm being from, I'd seen snow before,
but not like that.
California guy. It was, and it came down so fast and furious. It was crazy.
It was nuts. And for the record, even here 2 days ago, Sean, it was 80. We've had the balmiest, mildest fall that I can recall. Almost no rain and very little humidity, and every day, 60 to 65 to 70 to 80. It's been crazy. And then, but it can turn on a dime. I don't actually think it's supposed to last in this case, but it's enough. Even here, it becomes a rude awakening if it's preceded by the kind of balminess that we generally associate with the Houston, Texas, not in Minneapolis, St. Paul,
Right. Craziness. And that is, Dan, all the years that I was there, I can never remember it being that warm.
No.
Pushing November.
Yeah.
And it's seeing it because I'm always, I say somewhere, I was on my shows, I say somewhere Halloween, it's not going to be 82 and humid. It's going to be snowing somewhere in Minnesota came to mind and a few others. And now that you mentioned there was snow today, but I would imagine, so you're talking in a couple days, 50 degrees or so difference.
Yeah, literally.
For you guys. Yeah, it's crazy.
And with a wind chill, even worse because it's very windy.
Wind's howling. There you go.
I got to ask you one baseball question. Because I'm very curious to get your view on it. You've got to cover everything with your show.
And I'm a baseball fanatic.
And you're a baseball guy. Exactly. 100%. You pay attention to this stuff hardcore. So we talked a lot about, there's something that's bugging me about the Yankees' fifth inning beyond the obvious. And that is on the fateful play in question at first, where obviously the pitcher, Cole, should have covered. That was his job there. I said, I remain, though, as bugged by Rizzo being a statue as I am by the pitcher pointing to him like it's your play, that given the circumstance, given, and I know you can't know how that's going to open the floodgates because it's 5-1 after that runner crosses first base and the runner, comes home. But I'm thinking to myself, to me, I'm looking at Rizzo and saying, once you see the pitch, even though you're right and the pitcher's wrong, you still got to make a sprint. It's the World Series. It's Game 5. It's your elimination game. You're in a position to extend it. I don't think he's getting enough grief. Where are you on that whole issue?
100%. I said the same thing. This morning I was talking about, I said, wait a minute, I'm watching the game. First of all, it was and athletes and teams don't like to hear this, Dan, and you know this in covering it. That C word, the choke word, they don't like to hear it. Up 5-0, they got your ace going. And one inning, and think about it, Volpe's throw to third base on a routine ground ball. Everything was routine. Judge's ball that he'll catch it with a blindfold on the center field. What's he doing taking his head off? Nobody was tagging up to go to second. It was right in front of him charging. And then this play where Cole and Rizzo were both wrong. And what a disaster. It'd be like a golfer with it's Greg Norman, maybe not to that extent. But it's Greg Norman Faldo. Where it's like, dude, you're hitting the ball where an amateur would hit it in the middle of a lake, right?
Right.
It was, or missing 4 3-footers with a 2-stroke lead at Augusta, and they're all flat putts, which you don't find much there, and you miss them all, and you shot 64 the 3 previous days. It's crazy. Not that that's the Yankees, because the Yankees have not played the Dodgers, have not played them in a series, but just in that moment, it was a major choke job. I said the same thing. I said, well, first off, since spring training, since you were 14, we've been working on covering the base.
Yes.
I don't care whose play it is.
Right.
You pop off that mound and you sprint your ass down there. And if you don't get it, you just stay out of the way. Okay.
Correct.
Or if you see him sprinting, then you make a little, you veer left and get out of the way. You don't point and say it's yours. You get your ass over there. That's one. 2, it's like your number one receiver coming off the ball saying, dude, we got to make a play. And he runs a half-assed route, and he's like, what are you doing here? And the quarterback just stands there, right?
Right.
Doesn't try to find somebody else. And in Rizzo's case, you see it. You see there's something going on. You got to be, I'm talking about it's a dead sprint, whether you get beat or not, diving with your glove to the bag. Something, even foolish on effort because he took 2 steps and kind of looked like, well, whose bad is it? Your point and my point.
Exactly.
But in spring, listen, if you don't get it, if you're Garrett Cole, great. But you got to be in position to at least try.
Right.
And if you're Rizzo, I don't care if you haven't flipped it to the pitcher for the last 47 ground balls hit you at first base.
Yes.
You have to, you got to sprint and get there as if it is your play and he isn't going to be there, or if a pitcher's not there. I thought both were wrong.
Yes.
And it was what a disaster-filled inning. And given a team with that batting order and the way they've played this year, you can't give them that many chances. And play after play after play in the 5th inning, they let it happen. Yes, you should be just as pissed or confused about the effort and at least if you're going to be. We always said this on defense too. Hey, if you're confused and don't know what to do, hit somebody in an opposite colored jersey. Right. And it's the same thing here. You don't know what to do. You cannot let another runner, and boom, bingo, bango, bongo, and the game's over at 7-6, and you're going home.
It's crazy.
That's going to haunt them, that inning, for a long time.
Oh, God, yeah. It's historic. And,
no doubt.
And there were other errors or mistakes, but that one to me comes off part laziness, almost like,
controllable.
It's a second game of a doubleheader in mid-June, and, I probably should have got it. But this is your season, and they're two world-class players, by the way, too.
Yes. Both have been all-stars, both the top shelf. One's won a Cy Young. The other, has hit cleanup in that lineup, and I know he struggled in the late in the season, but good gracious, I just you can't. That was a controllable mistake by both of them that you've worked on since spring training. Both of them got a sprint, and if you can't get to it, dive and make a play because you never know when that out's going to be a difference. And that inning tore them apart, and they couldn't overcome it. It was crazy.
Part of what drives me crazy is I get a lot of emails from people about game performances within NBA games. And they say, they're not trying it. That's lazy. And sometimes I agree, but sometimes I go, that's too easy, man. Why? You can't just always pick basketball. And to me, that was a lazy. I don't think it's called out enough in baseball, actually.
100%. Yeah. The low hanging fruit is they're not playing any defense.
Right, exactly.
They're not diving on the floor like we saw Bird or Magic Johnson, right? Mm-hmm. Or Jordan. It relentless. Didn't matter what it is. And it is true part of it. There's time when you look and say,
sure.
They're down 20 with 4 minutes to go. They don't care.
Right.
I understand that, and it's a long season. But, in baseball, there's a ton of it. I've seen times, too, where there'll be a ball in the corner, and guys will just kind of let it bounce around. It's kind of it's like, at least get the ball in your hand, and then you could take – I've never understood it, and God rest Pete Rose's soul, but I guarantee I wish everybody played that hard all the time, but they just don't. And you're right. There's more of it in baseball that we let slide than is talked about. That's
your whole season, as it turns out.
No question about it. If you're going home, go home knowing that you left it out there.
Precisely.
They didn't.
The big news for Vikings Colts, of course, is that the Colts have decided to go back to to Methuselah, and they're sitting Richardson again. So how do you view this? Because Guardsy and I both thought that this in a way does create more of a challenge for the Vikings defense. But then, you listen to Beeflo all week and he's saying, look, the other guy is inconsistent. He's obviously got accuracy issues, but he still can make like 2 or 3 plays where you go, my God, they can make the difference. So for Vikings fans, should they be encouraged? Should they be happy that this quarterback change was made or not so much?
Yeah, and you described it to perfection, as did Flores. The guy, he makes the ordinary play look really extraordinary, meaning that simple play, dude, you can't make it look that rough, right? Yanking balls into the ground. And we're talking about unprecedented levels of incomplete, the percentage, the accuracy. Yes. It's bad. Now, he's also a guy that if you walked into a basketball gym in street clothes, he'd take a 2-foot jump stop and hammer a dunk from flat foot. He's outside linebacker size, can run like a running back, and he can throw it from me to you, from Houston to Minnesota. But there's a difference between being an explosive talent and a thrower as opposed to a quarterback that plays the position and is accurate. And then you expand from there, right? And he's got a long way to go. Now, he was just here last week. I've seen him twice this year. He is an extraordinary, gifted athlete. But at that position, that's not enough. And I know it's in the infancy of his career. I'd have benched him sooner. I would have. I know he was banged up. I would have benched him sooner because just on performance, he does not give them the best chance to win. Now, people panic and say, oh, what's it telling about the future? It's telling me nothing about the future. He missed most of last season. He's played some games this year. He's got to get to work in the offseason and be ready to play if something calls on him, if they call on him. But he's not giving him a chance to win because what Flacco isn't. So if you're a Vikings fan, you should have wanted the other guy. But Brian Flores is correct. What Flacco will not give you is off-schedule scrambling for 25 yards or stepping through 3 guys and taking it 50 for a touchdown. That's not going to be him. It's not going to be him where he falling down and throwing sidearm and the ball goes 40 yards and lands in one of his guys. That's not Flacco either. That's the special talent. Well, the first game we played him this year, Dan, Richardson was inaccurate. He made 2 plays that were like freak showish why you draft him. And then there was 2 guys that were 15 yards open. All he has to do is drop in the bucket, and he overthrew him. and they end up losing the game, but that's who he is. And Brian Flores is one. So if you're looking for, like wow factor, you're looking for the wow factor of like, what am I watching here? Richardson's your guy. If you're looking for good quarterback play, who's still more accurate, still gives you a better chance, can throw the long ball, delivers it on time, recognizing not just his strengths. Flacco knows his weaknesses. He's on borrow. Listen, he went from his couch to Cleveland, outplayed Watson. It was better there.
That's right.
They should have never let him go. And then he comes, although Winston's pretty good, and then he comes here and he should be playing. He gives you a better chance. Now, Brian's going to try to pressure him. He's going to try to get interior pressure to make Flacco go left and right so he doesn't get his comfort zone of stepping up. All those stuff we see Brian do, he's going to come at that full force. Jonathan Taylor's a good player. They've got enough weapons. I would have rather, if I was the Minnesota Vikings, played Anthony Richardson, because while you may give up 2, he's going to throw you a couple, and there's going to be plays you say, oh, my gosh, the guy's wide open, and he's going to miss it. His inaccuracy forced them to go to the bench. Now, I don't know how much of it Dan was tapping out, which I've never seen a quarterback do, which was odd to me for being tired.
Right.
I talked to Bruce Matthews, the Hall of Famer. We had lunch 2 days ago, or yesterday, should I say, and Bruce and I were talking, and the truth is, and to a man, anybody I've talked to, while he's young and he'll learn, can you imagine going to Randall McDaniel and Gary Zimmerman and say, hey, guys, I need you late in the fourth quarter when a 300 Reggie White's been leaning on you and head slapping your ass the whole time, and I need you now, but I'm going to can out on this one because I'm tired. It lie to us. That's the perfect time to lie to the media, Dan. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Hey, man, my hamstring, I felt a little twinge.
Some tightened up.
Right. My shoulder hurt on the play. I needed to go over there and make sure I was okay. I didn't want to put my team in a bind. You can't tell us. And then I love him for saying, but I got to be totally honest. He was totally honest, but as a young guy, he'll learn that the next time, don't tap out. You just can't do it, because that actually may be harder to win back. And I hear he's a good guy. People like him. He's young, but he's going to learn, because when your own team's saying, yeah, he's going to go through it, and probably rightfully so, that he may have more trouble overcoming that than he does the accuracy issues. Because you know how that goes. That's one of those things. Those guys are counting on you, and for you to turn it, it's like, wait a minute now. Does the right guard come to you and say, I got to take a break, man? Random again. I'm tired. He would have never came out of his mouth, no matter how tired he was, right? So I know it's a different world we live in now, and the kid's a big, strong kid, but you're going to have to lie to us next time, or your teammates, so they don't think you never know when you're going to have to go to them and say, I need one more play, and they're looking at you side-eyed like, you need one more play. Okay, well, yeah, so do we, my man. Yeah. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but the timing's perfect for them to make a change. You would have rather played Richardson than Flacco when it comes to the position.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense. I know you're a great offensive tackle mind, but I don't know if it's fair to ask you to break down what you know about Cam Robinson. This, of course, is the new left tackle that the Vikings acquired via trade with Jacksonville, a guy who's played a lot. It looks like he was about to be benched. So what do you know about him? Do you view it as a pretty, high reward, low risk move, given the draft choices involved aren't great, that was at least worth kicking the tires on him? What do you think?
Yes, and because that big P word, Dan, the potential, right? Even though he's been in the league a few years, he's played a lot of football. You're going to get that extra chance when you're a high draft pick. And there's still that potential because coaches think they can work with you. It's the other one that they want more of. He's been more potential than production since he's been in the league. So, as far as technique and how he practices and that. But I've watched him play a lot because obviously he's been in the division that we're here and seen it. But it's a similar story to his career, that a underachieving, very talented guy. And one thing I've asked before and I've never got an answer, and from a friend of mine who does media in Jacksonville, he was a little suspect on it too. I need to know how nasty he is, and I don't know that answer. I like that first, like good feet, good hands, but how nasty is he? And maybe still something to prove, but the potential part, and a guy who's played that's the big part. He's played a ton of football and seen a lot of looks. Of course it's worth kicking the tires, number one. And number two is you never know how he'll respond to somebody else. And when you've got that kind of potential, and you didn't give up much to get him, it's not a big risk. And the reward could be there, which will add depth, but also give you a body that's got playing experience. Now we're going to find out whether it's technique, whether it's attitude, whether it's just that he's an underachiever, or whether he was overdrafted when you got him in the first place, when he came out of college. So, when he came out, he was held in high regard. But I don't think he's ever gotten to the point where you're the sustain. I know he's never got to the point where you come out of it and say, that's my fixture on the outside at tackle.
Are the Lions separating themselves from not only everybody else in this division, but everybody else in the conference, or is it still premature to say that?
Probably premature, but if they were their aggressiveness on offense, I mean, it's going to be a good game with Green Bay. Right. Aside from Andy Reid, is different. Ben Johnson, in my mind, if I was picking a play caller that's not a head coach, it's a coordinator, I'm going with him because he'll score 40 and he doesn't care. They're still going to attack you, and they're going to run it. They're going to play action. They're going to do all kinds of different things. I'm stating the obvious because we've all seen Detroit a bunch. I think going into the year, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
I remember that, yeah.
And I just think they're better on defense. They do everything well on offense. They're aggressive on both sides of the ball. They've got great energy. They respond on buy-in to the head coach, and they're winning close games. And then when they got a chance to blow you out, they're not looking. They are pounding people, and they're beating you in different ways. Goff only threw 18 or so time, 15 of 18, I think, last week, and they hung 50 plus. So they are. I think they are the team to beat in the NFC. You know, the Philadelphias and the Packers and the Vikings, they have an argument. But right now, for my money, the three best teams in football today would be the Kansas City Chiefs. I still think the Baltimore Ravens belong in the talk. I do, even after last loss. Yep. And I would put Detroit as the favorite in the NFC if I was choosing right now and had to make a midseason pick.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with that. And again, things change. We get that. Injuries happen. Yep. Teams get in a little mini slumps, but they certainly look
I like teams, Dan. It's like a quarterback who gets 7-8 receivers involved. I like teams who win different ways. And they'll win on defense. They'll turn you over. They got two guys that could be number ones in the backfield. They use the tight end well. They've got good perimeter people. And they're actually playing like they've won 3 Super Bowls attitude-wise. They believe they're better than everybody they play, and whether that's Dan Campbell or somebody else, I like it. But the crazy thing about it is I love the North Division, and the Vikings, they just got to get back into their rhythm and doing their thing, and they said got to stay healthy. And Green Bay, there's 3 of the top 5 or 6 teams in the NFC are in one division, and I firmly believe that.
Were you ever involved in a successful Hail Mary pass?
Was I ever where it happened and we won
and you threw it
and I threw it? Mm-hmm. I think at a younger level, like high school, maybe. I can remember some, and I'm not sure if it was one of those where it was a last-second throw non-Hail Mary. You know, one of those where they don't cover a guy and the guy gets beat on a go route from your own third. That's happened. But I'm thinking, well, Dan, I'll tell you real quick. I don't want to keep you long. We were playing Florida. Was my junior year at SC, and they were beating us, and we were both top 20 teams in the country. And with the Coliseum, there's 90+ 1,000 people there, and we had gone back and forth, and they had the ball, and I told we were down 6, and I told my team, I said, we're going to get the ball back, and that was the Del Rio era. We had great players, right? So we're going to get it back. Well, we did get it back, and we were down 6 with 46 seconds to go, no timeouts at our own 20. The fans were filing out. They had a penalty, hit about 3 throws in a row, moved it down there, and then threw a semi-Hail Mary from like the 40, but it was close. And it landed it got tipped and landed out. The game was over, all zeros, right? Well, they had 12 men on the field.
Oh, wow.
They moved it up 5 yards, and I told Ted Tolmer, I knew the exact play I wanted. And so I told him, we ran it from the 25. We ran a bang post. I threw it. Normally when you throw it as hard as you can, it doesn't go where you want it. Between 3 guys, my receiver caught a bang post on time. 3 guys hit him. He held on to it. 46 seconds, no timeouts. And we had an extra play because they had 12 men on the field. Wow. We tied it, and I'll be damned. They didn't have they didn't have overtime then in college.
Yeah.
They botched the extra point. The ball was snapped low. The holder fumbled it a little and go to try to make a play. And our kicker, who was lights out, Steve Jordan, didn't even get a chance to swing through it. And so I went for the greatest emotion. It was the opener at home against Florida too. You got to be kidding me. So that's as close. But watching what I saw last week, Jaden Daniels, the perfect delay and throw, the way he bought time and then put it to where it didn't bounce out of the back of the end zone. Those work more now than they've ever worked, it seems. It seems like it's become a staple play for some, but I've never had one end like Tommy and,
like
Tommy Kramer in that game. I think it was Cleveland or whoever.
It was Cleveland, that was it. Yeah.
So I haven't had one like that, but the one in Florida when we did that was pretty damn close.
That's classic. I don't know if I'd ever heard that. That's devastation.
Had we won the game, it's one of those instant classics.
Yes,
right?
of course.
The fact that, my coaches, my wide receiver coach is in tears as we're waiting for hugging you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, and it's the opener, so it's kind of a tone setter for the year. And then all of a sudden we go over there and everybody's happy, and bam, we didn't even get a chance to swing through the extra point. It's like, you've got to.
That's brutal. That's cruel.
And
That's
I felt bad for those guys. It was unfortunate, but it would have been nice, and that would have been one of those where an instant classic, because 46 seconds, and then you could hear the crowd start to file back in when we were moving the ball down the field, and we got an extra play, and it worked, and then the extra point, we didn't get a chance to swing through. It was a crazy game, man.
Remarkable. By the way, the Hail Mary the Bears gave up, easiest, I can't remember an easier one than that. And then, of course, you factor in a defensive back who's messing with the crowd. Honestly, I sort of shook my head after that one.
Oh, it was, and they were all jumping. And that guy sitting there like, is anybody going to stick me? I've never understood why we don't cover the guy who's like a box in one of the guy that's in the back part of the end zone. And then, how's that for taunting? Boy, it's like a baseball game. You bring a rookie in, the ball will find you at third base.
Yeah, that's it. There it is.
You taunt people.
Yes.
The ball is going to find you somehow. What you do with it depends, and wouldn't you know, he's the one who tipped it right to him.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. The sports gods that control everything, I think they're often just, but they're also capable of being quite cruel. Right?
They sure are. Yeah. I've been fortunate for both, and am grateful for both, because I learned through the bad ones and was great for the good ones. But I'll tell you this: it's like Mother Nature. When she starts to sing loud and get rolling, brother, you either better get in line and pay attention, or hope you're on the right side of it, like Washington was. They must have lived right last week. It was an impressive way to finish a game.
Brilliant stuff again this week, my friend. We appreciate you. We'll chat next week.
I look forward to it. Appreciate you. Thank you.
That is Sean Salisbury helping us out on a number of subjects. He's a ball guy, too. He grew up on baseball. He loves baseball, and he covers it a lot in Houston. Obvious reasons. The Houston Astros play there. So it was good conversation with him, good input from him on that subject, which we were discussing, the disastrous fifth inning for the Bronx Bombers in New York, New York. Don't forget, a full show the rest of the way. Dr. Dan's inbox is scheduled for 4:30. Bill Guerin, Wild General Manager, will join at about 5.